I'm going to be going through property and casualty exam questions, particularly for homeowners and dwelling. So first question is, under a DP2 broad form, which of the following perils is covered? So the correct answer here is C. What is covered is falling objects. So let's go through the other answer choices here. We have earthquakes, we have war, and we have power failure. So right away, war and power failure. Those are both general exclusions, right? So if we flip over here and we look at the general exclusion list, war is, if I can find it, here it is right here, war and power failure. Those are both general exclusions, right? So right away, we can eliminate those. Those are never going to be covered, regardless of the type of policy, right? So whether this was asking about a DP1 policy, DP3, homeowners, right? They're always going to be excluded. So automatically eliminate it. Earthquake, the deal with earthquakes is earthquakes can be covered, but they always have to be endorsed. And that's two, regardless of the policy. So it doesn't matter if they're asking about homeowners, commercial, they always have to be endorsed onto the policy. So it'll never come included on a standard policy. The insured is always going to have to pay an extra premium to get it endorsed onto the policy. So again, correct answer is falling objects. And again, I'll reference that sheet with the perils in a second. But the reason it is covered is because falling objects here is a broad peril, right? The question is asking about a DP2 broad form. So if we look here at our broad perils up at the top, falling objects is a covered broad peril. So that is why C is the correct answer. So let's look at the next one. This one says, which of the following properties would not be eligible for a homeowner's policy? So first thing is with these questions, anytime the question is asking about which of the following is not, or all of the following are eligible except for. So first thing you want to do right off the bat is make sure that you fully understand what they're asking, right? So right away, these answers, 3 of these are going to be eligible for a homeowner's policy. One of them is not. We are looking for the one that is not eligible for a homeowner's policy. So if we think about a homeowner's policy, one of the main indicators is that in order to be eligible for a homeowner's policy, the owner of the home has to reside in the home, right? That's what makes it a homeowner's policy. It has to be owner occupied, right? That's one of the kind of the key differences between a dwelling and a homeowner's. Dwelling policies do not have to be owner occupied. Homeowners policies do, right? So let's keep that in the back of our head as we go through this. So right away, the correct answer is B. It says a rental property with 4 separate tenants. So what does that mean? It means that there are separate tenants living in each one of the residents inside of that building. None of them are occupied by the owner of the building, right? So right away, we know that the owner of the building is not living there. So that is not going to be eligible for a homeowner's policy. Whereas if we read the other answer choices, like A says a duplex where the owner, right, being the owner of the building, occupies one of the units. That's fine, right? That would be eligible for a homeowner's policy, right? So that's the difference between A and B, right? A says the duplex where the owner occupies one of the units. That's fine, right? Because the owner is living there. That's owner occupied. A rental property with 4 separate tenants. Again, that owner of the building is not living there, making B the correct answer. C says a townhouse occupied by the owner. Of course, that's fine, right? It is owner occupied. And then same thing with D, a single family home used as a residence. Same thing, right? That's just a single family home that the owner of the home resides in, right? Is their main residence. If we think about a dwelling policy, and this could be a question on the exam, they could say something like a building or a home that's used as a second residence, or that's used as a vacation home, a home that's used as a mountain house, right? A summer home. all of those are going to be dwelling policies, right? Because it's not the homeowner's main residence, right? So that's kind of a good way to think about the difference between dwelling and homeowners. Dwelling does not need to be owner occupied, homeowners does. So again, this correct answer here is B, because the owner of the home is not living in it. And then last question here says, which of the following is true about theft coverage under an HO3 policy? So on this question, when we're reading through the answer choices, 3 of these statements are going to be false about theft. One of them is going to be true. We are looking for the true statement. So the correct answer here is C. Theft is a covered peril for personal property. And this is under a homeowner's policy, particularly in HO3, but theft is actually covered under homeowners in general. So when we think about perils, the perils are exactly the same on a dwelling and a homeowner's. Theft is actually the only difference. So when we look at our basic perils here, right, you have your 3 basic fire perils, fire, lightning, removal, and your 8 extended perils. Again, these are exactly the same when you look at a dwelling policy to a homeowner's. The only difference is that on a homeowner's policy, you're going to add theft. So theft is covered, it's a covered basic peril on a homeowner's policy, where theft is not covered on a dwelling policy. So to be more specific here with this question, if this question said, which of the following is true about theft coverage under an HO1 policy? Same answer would apply. Theft is a covered peril for personal property, right? So because it's a basic peril on a homeowner's policy, it would be covered under an HO3, HO2, HO1, right, etc. Had this question said, which of the following is true about theft coverage under a DP1 policy? If it's a dwelling policy, it does not come standard, right? It's optional. It would have to be endorsed onto the policy in order for it to be covered. To be clear, this always trips people up, the difference between endorsements versus exclusions. So to be clear, on a dwelling policy, theft is not excluded, right? So it's not going to be listed over here under our general exclusions, right? Theft is not excluded, but it doesn't come standard on a dwelling policy. So again, if the owner of the building on a dwelling policy, if they wanted to have theft coverage added on to their dwelling policy, they would have to have it endorsed. So it's optional. They would have to pay an extra premium to add theft coverage onto the policy. And then again, on homeowners, that just comes standard on the policy. So I hope that helps. I'm going to keep doing this and go through different example questions for each of the different chapters. So tell me if there's any chapters in particular that you would like to see this done on. And I will try to pull some questions together and go through this. But I hope this helped for dwelling and homeowners. As always, if you want even more help, you can get our on-demand package where I teach you every single chapter. And we also have a study guide and practice exam bundle where I basically give you 100 questions, but then I also do a video where I'm explaining each one of the questions similar to what you just got here. So always rooting for you. You got this.